what is Van Watch and why was it started?
Okay, so it's probably better to take that the other way around. So the VanWatch came out of the explosion of tool theft from vehicles that's taken place from about 2016 up until now. So the frequency of tool theft has increased by about 2.5 times. So
Wow.
before COVID, it was roughly speaking once every 23, 24 minutes. It's now once every 9 minutes. That's 58,000 incidents a year. VanWatch was formed to try and bring together various industry actors to bear down on this problem in a variety of ways, whether that's through encouraging the police to take it more seriously, courts to give more realistic sentences, resale platforms to be more responsible in the way they enforce their policies, and even van manufacturers to take more seriously the issue of load space security in their products. So yeah, that's what it's for, and that's why.
Right. So is there a more response to what was happening rather than being?
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of people campaigning, doing great work on individual elements of the tool theft problem. So the idea of VanWatch was to help coordinate the sort of sources both of campaigns and sources of support for the victims of tool theft, and deal with the issue in a holistic way.
So how big of a problem is tool theft for tradespeople in the UK?
Well, as I said, 58,000 incidences every year. An individual tradesperson who is perhaps 40 years on the tool can expect 4 times in their life to be wiped out through through tool theft. That is incredibly more likely than you are to have your house burgled. Four times in a lifetime, you consider yourself very unlucky. The issue is magnified because it isn't just the loss of the stolen tools. In fact, the tools represent only about 40% of the value lost. The rest of it being in damages to a vehicle and the lost business that is consequent on not having the tools available, and that's just the financial side. So we also see more than a third of the victims of tool crime saying that it's had a serious impact on their mental health or emotional well-being. I think, yeah, for a lot of people, the life of a tradesperson working out of van is quite an isolated one. They don't perhaps have the same sources of support that somebody works in a workplace with hundreds of colleagues around them have. So I think that we should not understate the impact that having your tools stolen has on your mental health.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably a bigger problem for all of those self-employed people that obviously that's their livelihood at the end of the day. And
it is, and sadly, particularly men in construction have the highest suicide rate in the UK, which is a sad but true statistic.
So why do you think tradespeople are becoming this common target every day?
Well, it's because this particular category of crime it's quite easy to do. It's not a difficult crime to commit. It's not like breaking into Hatton Garden jewelry store. It's quite low risk because the police detection rate and then the court conviction rate are dismally low, and it's very profitable. In fact, a recent study done by a criminologist at Durham University found that power tools were second only to cash and credit cards in desirability for thieves because they are so readily convertible to cash. So it's easy, it's relatively risk-free, it's very profitable, so criminals do it a lot.
What's the top ways then that tradespeople are able to protect their tools and keep them safe?
Okay, well, this plays into one of the threads of the campaign. So if we can make it harder, riskier, and less profitable, then fantastic, we will bear down it. So tradespeople can make it harder in two primary ways. One is modifying behaviour. So the increasing incidence of opportunistic thefts from fast food restaurant car parks, from outside suppliers. We have this idea that the vehicle is at risk when it's overnight, and that's true. Slightly more than half of thefts are overnight. but nearly half of them happen during the daytime. So alertness during the day. So if you stop for a burger, if there's two of you, maybe one of you stays in the van, the other one goes in to get the burger. So alertness and behavior is one. The other is some basic aftermarket security devices. The sad truth is that van manufacturers don't pay as much attention to load space security as perhaps they might. So three key products: anti-stab plates around the locks, anti-peel brackets on the loading doors, and deadlocks, deadlocks or hook locks to beef up the basic security. One of the issues that we have is that as vehicles are on the market for longer, so a particular brand of vehicle has been available for a long time, the thieves know exactly where to penetrate the skin in order to disable the lock. So that's where the anti-stab plates and additional locks come into play.
Right.
The anti-peel plates just prevent them from pulling down the side of the door and getting access that way.
Is there any areas in the UK where tool theft is worse than others, would you say?
Well, it broadly follows population. So the southeast is a hotspot. Parts of London, north and west London, particularly out into Essex, particularly hot at the moment. But having said that, there is no part of the country where I would say there is no risk. Maybe the extreme highlands of Scotland or parts of central Wales might be a bit lower. But the other thing that we are seeing is tool thieves travelling out of the big metropolitan areas, targeting the rural market towns where perhaps security isn't quite so tight, and maybe hitting one or two towns a night. You might take 6 or 8 vehicles. Wow. This is quite a quick crime to commit.
Yeah.
And if you could turn over 6 vehicles a night at £3,000 or £4,000 a time, that's, as I said, it's quite profitable.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, how can your Tool Angel scheme help out then?
Okay, so Tool Angel is a scheme. It's not operated by VanWatch. It's operated by a plumbing and heating merchant called Williams. The idea of that is to help the victim of tool theft get back to work straight away. So, as I mentioned earlier, a large part of the cost of being a victim of tool crime is not being able to work. Tool Angel is a loan scheme that lends without any obligation any plumbing and heating engineer who's been a victim of tool crime. The Tool Angel scheme will lend them 3,000 or 4,000 quid's worth of tools so that they can get back to work immediately. They then return them once they've got perhaps claimed off their insurance or sourced new tools. They return those borrowed tools to the Tool Angel bank, and they become available for the next victim.
Okay.
And we are very much encouraging other merchants and wholesalers in other trades to set up similar sort of copycat schemes, perhaps for the electrical industry or kitchen fitting or general builders merchanting.
Okay, great. Thanks for being a part of that, Ray.
Thank you.
Before, when we spoke, you mentioned how tool marking can help. Could you go into more detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So, and when we're talking about tool marking here, I am talking about marking in a forensic way with a database, a registration database behind it. So simply marking your telephone number or your postcode on tools is less helpful than using one of the commercial systems that you then register the tool in the central database. So the idea of this is, imagine that the police raid a lockup somewhere or a container and they find piles of stolen tools. Quite often this happens actually during investigations into a different type of crime. They'll come across this stash. If they can prove the tools are stolen, and by using one of the forensic marking techniques, they can trace it back and say, yes, this tool is registered on this database and has been marked as stolen, they have that, it closes the evidential loop. So they can go to court with a much higher prospect of getting a conviction. Now, it does also increase the possibility that you will be reunited with your tools. But to be honest, that is a second order benefit. The primary benefit, and this is a bit like vaccinating kids against childhood diseases, is if everybody does it, it makes the whole business of tool theft much, much harder. If all stolen tools are traceable, they wouldn't be so valuable in the second-hand market. Therefore, the whole thing would be less profitable. And I wouldn't want to say criminals will stop stealing, but they'll go and steal something else instead.
Do you have any tradespeople success stories that you'd like to share?
Well, there's been a couple of major successful busts by police operations. Probably the best known is Operation Boromir, where Hampshire police, through an intelligence-led operation, managed to unravel a gang and get back thousands and thousands of power tools, and dispatch those involved to eat at His Majesty's porridge for a while. They are sadly fewer than I would like to report. There are odd occasions, and actually some very sad occasions, where individuals end up buying their own tools back at a car boot sale because it's the cheapest way of getting back into business, and because the police aren't interested in following up the crime report.
What's the one key message that you want to share with tradespeople?
Oh, one message. That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Aftermarket security. If your vehicle doesn't have anti-peel plates, anti-stab plates, and deadlocks, if so long as you install them yourself, it's £100 or £200. It's probably the biggest difference you can make. That and staying alert. The other thing I would recommend is reading the small print of your tool insurance policy. Insurance policies are not all equal. There's this sort of slightly cynical view that all insurers are the same and they will all try and get out of paying up. Actually, this isn't true, but the less you pay for tool insurance, the more exclusions there are likely to be.
Right.
And the more you pay for it, the more likely you are, for instance, to get new for old. So you actually get the replacement value of your tools rather than perhaps their depreciated value at 5 years old, which may be a fraction of what you paid for them, never mind what you need to replace them.
Yeah, because I was looking into some insurance companies the other day, and I found a statistic that like quite a lot of them don't even insure them at night time. Like they only insure them for certain hours of the day.
There are if a plug for our website. If you go to www.vanwatch.org.uk, you and follow the links to insurance, you'll see a comparison of the major tool insurers in this country and what their exclusions are. And there, as you say, there are some that exclude overnight. There are some that will only pay out if you have proof of purchase for your tools. That's quite a common exclusion, and not everyone has receipts from 5 or 6 years ago. And there are other exclusions. For instance, driving a hire van. Often your tools are insured in a named vehicle, but the registration of the vehicle is specified. If you find yourself with your tools in a hire van, the cheaper insurance policy may not cover that at all.
Okay. I think that's pretty much all the questions I have for you, Ray. Did you have anything you wanted to necessarily talk about?
Other areas that I'd probably like to touch on are the operators of car boot sales and high street pawn shops and cash converter, that type of shop.
Okay.
They could play a big part. And there has been some good practice, both in Essex and in Derbyshire, where the operators of car boot sales have just outlawed the sale of power tools completely because there's such a high level of criminality involved in it. And I'd encourage council and other car boot sale operators to consider following that. There's also, before Parliament at the moment, there is a bill to enhance the potential for tool thieves to get custodial sentences. So effectively, it is to revise the sentencing guidelines so that magistrates treat the theft of tools of a trade as being an aggravating factor and can apply a higher tariff to it. That's being sponsored by Amanda Martin MP for Portsmouth North and is in process at the moment. So if anyone listening would like to contact their MP and encourage them to support Amanda's bill, that would be fantastic.
Yes, definitely. Is there anything specifically you want to say about VanWatch?
We have a number of services available, particularly for the victims of tool crime. So if you find yourself sadly a victim, maybe visit www.vanwatch.org.uk and click on the Get Help link. There are a number of organisations there, as well as Tool Angel, who provide financial, emotional support for the victims of tool crime, and we can help link you with them.